Hello once again, good friends. Welcome, new subscribers. I'm Brian from Apex Detail. You know, every once in a while, I'm going to keep putting these Rotary videos out for you guys. I really do think it's important, no matter where you are into detailing. If you're just doing it in your driveway to take care of your own cars or doing it professionally, adding the Rotary to your arsenal is very important. When I started in the 80s, you needed to know how to wet sand. You needed to master the Rotary to keep a job. A lot of detailing jobs at that time were attached to body shops, and these were the tools that they had. So I use two. I use this little guy here, the PE8, gets into tighter spaces. I do use a larger backing plate on sometimes when I get tired of handling this, as my shoulders are worn pretty good. I'll put a larger backing plate on and use the lighter unit. It does have enough power. It is effective. Yes, you're only supposed to put a 3-inch backing plate. This channel isn't for marketing, guys. This channel is to show you how to use products and tools and make them effective for you to either take care of your own car or maintain and be profitable in a business and put food on your table. So I used a PE8, and I also use this Drill Master. Very, very effective for the price. Got it at Harbor Freight years ago and is still ticking. Doesn't miss a beat. You can use a larger backing plate and use the foam and the wool pads for the larger backing plate. You could put a smaller backing plate on for the honey combination wool pads, which are very effective, and that's what I have on both of these right now. This is what we're going to be working on today. We have oxidized, scratched, marred, just overall neglected paint. This is single stage. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn that area of the front clip into this. A shiny, reflective. This is the way it should look, and this can be achieved by using the Rotary. It will cut more effective than a dual action polisher. If in the right hands, it also finishes down better than a dual action polisher. It runs cooler on the surface, so it's easier on the paint using the right pads. Like I said, you can use wool or foam pads. Let's get to work. Before we get started, let's talk about this surface a little bit first. This is single stage, and it's old, and it's very stubborn. You're going to have transfer. I always keep old, used, worn pads laying around. I don't throw them away. I save them just for this purpose because there's going to be a lot of transfer of this paint onto the pad, and you'll need to keep the pad clean. You'll need to clean it after every pass. Normally, this would be a great situation where I wet sand. That is another video for another time. So let's just turn this into a 3-stage. I'll show you how to do 3 stages for this particular job today using the Rotary. We're going to use a compound, and then we'll switch pads, and we'll take it from cutting all the way down to finishing, and it will look fantastic like the other side. And we'll use this section right here as our canvas to do our artwork. Let's get to it. With the pad flat and firmly on the panel after you spread out some compound, make sure the speed setting for the Rotary polisher is on the first speed setting. Power it up, keep the pad flat, and let it start to rotate. As it starts up, you're going to start to guide the polisher back and forth. You'll notice where my right hand is cradling the body of the polisher. The left hand is not on top, applying pressure. It's holding onto the handle. I'm just going to guide this polisher back and forth, let the weight, the speed, the pad, and the compound do the work for me. The Rotary does a great job taking a heap of pressure off of your body and getting a ton of work done at the same time. You'll notice how smooth and how fluid the movement is, or the motion of the polisher back and forth on the panel. I very rarely go above speed 2.5 or 3, which is mid-speed on the polisher. Listen as I bump up the speed from 1 to 2.5, and I normally will not go above that. And also look at the wool. The wool is not being squished between the pad and the panel. I'm not applying a ton of pressure. I'm really not adding any more pressure than the polisher is applying on its own. What's the importance of this? Well, it keeps the temperature down low enough because of the airflow in between the panel and the pad. Okay, so this is what it looks like at this point. Still rough around the edges. But we needed to use an aggressive pad. We're not wet sanding. We needed to do an exfoliation of dead paint molecules that were on the surface, along with some other imperfections. Now we're going to move on to stage 2. A little bit less aggressive of a pad. We're going to move to the Lake Country low lint wool pad. Has a little bit less cut and finishes down way further. Will take us to the finishing stage of the correction. We're going to stick with the Meguiar's M110 for yet the second stage. You'll notice this pad is quite different, lower profile. However, there's still plenty of airflow. There is a hybrid combination of wool and foam in this pad, and yes, we're going to stick with the Meguiar's. Once again, spreading out the product, placing the pad firmly on the panel, making sure the speed setting is at the first speed setting for your rotary. Start it up and get your arms moving. Arm motion, exactly just like correction speed on a DA. 1 inch every second or 2. If it starts to skip on you, if the machine starts to skip because of the pad you're using, or if you feel it's going to start skipping, it will give you a little bit of a hint. Just slightly tilt to a 10 or 15 degree angle and then quickly set back down flat. That should take care of it. If it doesn't, just add a little bit more product. That will give you some more lubrication and keep it from skipping. You don't want to keep the polisher steady on a 10 or 15 degree angle. You're going to be plowing the paint and not polishing. Okay, let's remove the residue and we'll see what type of progress. And there's going to be a huge difference because of the pad that we stepped down to. The Lake Country low lint pre-washed lamb's wool pad, it really gives me great results. I show that in many of my videos. This is after the second stage. And all we were working on really is removing the haze and the correction marks from the first stage, which was a real aggressive pad. The honey combination wool pad is great to get started on a real rough looking surface that you're not going to be wet sanding. So this is what it looks like right before the finishing stage. Now I'm going to switch over to a foam pad, open cell, so it still will run cooler than most foam pads anyways. And we're going to switch from the Meguiar's to the Sonax Perfect Finish. This is a foam polishing pad, open cell. This is a more aggressive polishing pad because of the stubborn paint and what we're trying to achieve here. If it was a softer, clear coat, I would go with a white or a maroon pad. Those are the softest before you get to the black application foam pad you could use for jeweling. Again, it's going to be flat on the panel after you have the compound spread out or the polish spread out, and you're going to start it up again on speed 1. Eventually, I will take this up to the high speed. I will run on a rotary polisher, which is speed 3 to finish, just because of the lack of aggression on the pad itself. Our movement is just a little bit faster when I have a foam pad on, even though it's open cell, because it creates just a little bit more heat. I also take a little bit more pressure off the top of the polisher. Also, when my students get to the foam pads, I see the vibration starting in the polisher and I know it's going to skip. I'll just have them stop, add 1 or 2 more drops of compound or polish on the pad, give it a tip of the cap, which means just tilt it quickly on a 10 or 15 degree angle, set it back down, and it will straighten itself out. If you have to, adjust speed a little bit. All right, let's remove the residue and take a look at the results from this step. And by the way, that pad was a polishing pad, but it was a more aggressive polishing pad. Again, I'm working on something very stubborn, and this is what you have. Now, there are a lot of deep scratches and stuff I didn't look to take care of. I just wanted to give you the basics here. The finishing process you could protect from here. There is a good enough gloss, as you can see right there, that you could lay your protection down and everybody would be happy. You can go even further with the Rotary. Put on a black application pad, the black foam application pad. Use a very fine polish cleaner, and from there, from this step on, you can even go further and do your jeweling stage. The jeweling stage, flattens the surface even further. Your gloss, your reflection comes from making the surface as flat as possible. And that last step, the jeweling stage, again, with a polish cleaner type, a very fine abrasive, and the black finishing pad, or even the red one. They do have dedicated jeweling pads. You just have to do your research and find them. Guys, I promise you, the Rotary cuts better and faster, and it finishes down better than a dual action polisher if in the right hands, using the right pad and the right polish. It cuts better because you have to picture this, and I'll show you a quick demonstration before the end of the video here. The rotation of the Rotary and the pad makes the abrasive travel a lot further and do a lot more work than you would if you had the abrasive working it in with a dual action polisher. Oscillating and rotating, yes, but rotating at a slower speed, and the oscillation is only giving you slight movement to add to the slow rotation. It does make the DA easier to work, yes, but if you want to be more effective in both cutting and finishing, grab a panel. Get out there, guys. Go to a local body shop. Grab a panel. They are more than happy to get rid of their panels. They don't have to call up a junkyard to come pick them up. Grab a hood. Grab dark colors. Grab soft, clear, hard, clear, and practice on them. Burn through first. I always have the kids that I teach burn through the clear coat on an edge and on the flat. Get it over with so you know what it feels like. Then you know how to correct yourself and not do it. Start there, get over the fear, and then start practicing. I want to give you a short demonstration on the travel of an abrasive using the Rotary versus the DA real quick. Notice of the 4 dots I put on this foam pad, that will represent abrasives on a compound. Try and keep track of it as it spins even on the lowest setting of the Rotary. You can't because of the speed. Just imagine how fast that goes if you're cranking it up. Now that's the distance of the abrasive as it's working around the panel. And it's going in circles, so if you actually straighten out that line of the abrasive making in the panel, you could just imagine how far that would travel if you straighten it out. Now we're going to do the same thing. I have it attached to a DA this time. It's a lot easier to keep track of the grit of the abrasive. You'd get oscillation, yes, that's restricted, and you also get a little bit of rotation, and it depends what polish you have. I know some of you guys pay $400 for a polisher that will stop doing that if you put pressure on it. But this is the travel of your grit, of your abrasive. Restrictive in the oscillation, but the rotation is slow. So if you straighten that out, you're not doing as much work as the abrasive that is being worked with a Rotary. A point I'd like to drive home is to keep that speed down. Start off on speed 1, work your way up slowly if you have to. There's really no need for it. I don't take mine above 2.5, 3. All it does is jack up those temperatures. Stick with the wool pads if you can. The newer combination hybrid wool foam pads that they have out now really work great with the Rotary. The airflow while you're using the Rotary is decent, keeps the panel cool. That's important. There's only one way to correct with a cooler temperature and be more effective and quicker. That's wet sanding. And I'll try and pump some more of those videos out for you. Another thing, don't fight the Rotary. Grab some panels from a junkyard or a body shop and practice letting the machine do the work for you. I see a lot of individuals using a Rotary and they are just fighting it. I see their white knuckle, they're squeezing it. Just light pressure. You really don't need to have a death grip on the machine. Just guide it. Guide it back and forth. Let the weight of them. Some of them have really decent weight to them. Let the weight and the speed of the machine do the work in combination with whatever compound and pad you're going to team up with it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. I'm here for you. Brian from Apex Detail. Catch you in the next video.